Hello and welcome to Books Corner. I'm Ashwin Ahmad and I'm very pleased to be in conversation with Raju Santhanam, senior investigative journalist and author of the book The Untold Story of Christian Michel and AugustaWestland. Today we will be discussing just how the Christian Michel saga unfolded and what are the ramifications post his arrest. Raju, first off, a very warm welcome to you on this show.
Thanks, Ashwin. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, I want to start with your personal connection. You describe in the book that you had actually first approached Christian Michel to write a book on his father. Now, what was your impression of Michel at the time?
Well, he was just like any other guy, any fellow, very friendly, uh, great sense of humor. Just an ordinary, some guy you meet on the street kind of chap. And he, in fact, the whole idea when I met him was basically I tried to persuade him to try and write a book about his father. I said I'll ghostwrite it. It took him a year, 2 years for him to realize how big the story would be, the book would be, because it's all about his father, who was Wolfgang, was well known in the arms circle in the UK, and he was also involved in arms deals with Libya and South Africa, the United Kingdom. And his story was very fascinating, how he started from Germany and how he was accepted by the British intelligence service. So it was a book about him, which I was to ghostwrite. But then things happened so fast that Chris himself was involved in this scandal. And so I said, let me put that on hold and let me look at his own, exploits. So that's how this book came about. But that book is still on hold. It's a fascinating book whenever it gets to be written, whenever it comes out. Yeah.
So, Michel, when you approached him, that's another thing I wanted to take up with you. You said that the Christian Michel that you know is nothing like the Christian Michel, the one that the media are portraying in the headlines. Now, can you elaborate a little bit what you mean by that?
Absolutely. You see, the point is that when I met him and I had a series of meetings with him, there was nothing. When I talk about media portraying him, is when I saw the television pictures when he arrived from Dubai in a special aircraft. He seemed a totally different person who's shaken. He seemed to didn't know where he was. But it's just a total contrast. A year and a half, 2 years prior to that, when I met him, he seemed extremely friendly. So I'm just contrasting the images that I was talking about.
Yes.
What the media had been writing about him post his arrest and pre his arrest was as part of what was given to him, the officials at that point of time. And that's how the case was built on it. So I was talking like contrasting images of what I saw personally and what I knew of him. And then I couldn't reconcile the image that was built on him, which I still can't. Because I don't think, as far as the courts are concerned, this issue went to the Supreme Court in Italy. And the Italian courts are very, they have a complicated way of running things. The first one lower court charged all these chaps, including Osni, the chairman, Theodore Husky, and several others, for the corruption. The next court acquitted them. The third court did the reverse. And finally, the Supreme Court acquitted all of them. But the point is, in Italy, the Italian press is as aggressive as the Indian press. So the point is that people like Ossi asked, look, how are you going to get me 3.5, 4 years back? He was in jail for about 1.5, 2 years. It's something which is happening to Christian Michel again in India. We've been a year in Dubai, about a year in India.
I'm glad you brought up the Italians because that is something you dwelt at in your book at great length. Now, my question is, there are a number of characters. Now, maybe you could elaborate on them, but how is it, the focus has remained for us in India on Michelle and the number of other characters. It seems to me that we've not really, gone at great lengths to interrogate them. So, could you describe the other characters involved and why has India seemingly not been able to get at them?
See, the point is that this story, from the Indian perspective, the story was broken in the Indian Express based on the court proceedings and all that happened in Italy. This is way back, I think, in 2013 or so. The Congress government was still in power. Antony was the defense minister. He did order an inquiry into it. But the inquiry was going on. Nothing much came of it. But then things were speeded up after the Modi government took over. As for the case itself is concerned, as I told you, there were some acquittals, then conviction again, then an acquittal. That's the course it took in Italy. In India, what are we looking at? We're looking at the Indian angle. You see, which government of India says, which ED says, CBS says, which has not been explored enough, which means connection with the Air Marshal Tyagi, the Indian government officials, all that. So that is what the Indian side of the whole investigation. Did you have contacts there? So to prove this, you need to have a lot of evidence. You need to have sort of some evidence that Christian Michel met Tyagi. There was some exchange of money, some gratification, all that. I don't think we have reached that stage so far. I mean, past 2 years, nothing that I have seen in the court records in the media that we have reached so far. But the court will go on. The problem with these courts and the problem with the investigation, particularly of this kind, like in the Bofors case, the Bofors case took about something like 20, 25 years. By the time, one of the main accused was Rajiv Gandhi himself. He died. Defense Secretary Bhatnagar, he died. Vin Chadha died. So it took so long. And ultimately, I think 3-4 years ago, the whole thing was buried. My suspicion is, my cynical view is that all this is used for basically political fodder. You want to do something, malign somebody, you want to malign a political party, use it, hope to get some votes. Unfortunately, there is no professional investigation or a professional investigation not allowed to be done in cases like this because it gets muddied somewhere, You get what I mean.
The other interesting thing that you dwelt at in your book is the role of the British government and especially during Margaret Thatcher's time. Now, there was a great deal of pressure after then Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi had said, no, the helicopters are unsafe. But you also talk about, Thatcher and other members of her cabinet putting a lot of pressure there. And suddenly there seemed to be a change in the government stance. Now, can you describe a little bit of what happened and why was this change?
Yeah, so there are two parts. I mean, there's AugustaWestland, the defense deal, which we're talking about sometime in 2010. Then the AugustaWestland, the civilian deal, way back, you're talking about 84, 85, when Rajiv Gandhi was the prime minister. So the thing was, Margaret Thatcher was not, from what I learned from the documents which I published in my book, initially, Mr. Gandhi was keen on the AugustaWestland civilian helicopters, and everything was moving fast. But Rajiv Gandhi, as a Congress leader in Parliament, he said in Parliament that there's no need for these choppers because they're useless, they will not serve the purpose. He was proved right, of course, later on, because most of these choppers were unfit. A lot of them, there were crashes and all that. But that's a later story. But this is what his view was. Later on, for a period of time, Rajiv Gandhi reversed his own statement, his own decision. And the cabinet, one fine day, suddenly said that we are okay with the choppers. And I had accessed restricted documents from the UK archives and reveals that at every step how Mrs. Thatcher was sort of monitoring the developments, and then they were linking aid they said UK aid will be stopped if you don't buy it. And in Parliament, of course, Rajiv Gandhi had said, it doesn't matter whether you get aid or not, but these choppers are useless. But he suddenly changed, his stand. And I've hinted about London industrialist who played a major role in it. His name was blanked out in the UK archives. So that was way back then when, Bofors had just happened then. There were no rules in place. Everybody had a free pass. Uh, Subsequently to that, after the Bofors and all that, the proper rules now in place. And that's what happened to the AugustaWestland too. In this case, again, there were rules were followed, So there is a difference between the two. The way in which AugustaWestland won, the civilian deal was done, and the defense deal was done.
So let's try and summarize a bit, because there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of media press. There is very little that we can say as fact. What, in your view, can we say as fact? Is this contention that the Gandhi family was involved in the deal? Is that correct to say, or is that simply conjecture? We don't have enough facts yet. What can we truthfully say as fact regarding this deal?
See, there's nothing really on record and nothing factual. But see, what the investigators have to go is circumstantial evidence. And in the Bofors case, it was known that Kotrochi was very close to the Gandhi family. But to get evidence was extremely, extremely difficult, which is why he got away. In this case, there has to be some suggestion that Christian Michel had a major role to play in meeting key politicians. Guido Heskey has made a statement saying that he met Ahmed Patel, that there was, he had said that they're all involved. He said, look, there's a piece of paper which says he has named Ahmed Patel and others. But that piece of paper, what is the evidential value it has, we'll have to see. And coming back to your earlier question about why the focus was on him is because he was the only fellow who's available. He was sitting in Dubai, and that's how they managed to get him. That's what it is.
Yes, now I'm glad you brought up Dubai, because I want to come a little bit to the present. Now, again, allegations we have that, Christian Michel was made available by the UAE in exchange for a swap deal, where we seemingly, allegedly gave them the princess. So, are these again in the realm of allegations? What can we say is true as fact? And if it is indeed true, what does that mean?
So it is, certain facts are there. The princess was rescued by Indian Coast Guard. The government of India did help and get them out of it. Fact that Christian Michel was in Dubai, was facing a court case, and one fine day an Indian aircraft came and took him away to death. These are facts. So I think it is safe speculation to say that there was a quid-pro-quo. Having said that, it is something between two governments. Some couple of years ago, I remember 1985, I had done a story on how Romesh Bhandari, who was the External Affairs Ministry, managed to get 5 Sikh terrorists who had hijacked an aircraft. They had gone to Pakistan, were taken to Dubai. They wanted asylum in the US. Bhandari negotiated a situation where these people they were told they were going to US, but they were brought back to India. So it's also how, how these guys, how the governments themselves deal with it. It's the relationship between the two countries. Obviously, a very high-powered help in Dubai was used to do that. But every government does use it. The only question is whether how useful was Michel, or are you using a hammer to kill an ant? Whether you're getting something really ordinary. So far, nothing is being done. Nothing seems to be revealed, at least.
Okay? Yes, exactly. Now, the second part I want to come to is, Do you think it has helped change India's image in the eyes of the world in terms of extradition requests? I mean, we've recently had Vijay Mallya's case where, the UK court has seemingly rejected his claims of torture in Indian jail. So, has Christian Michel kind of set a precedent in terms of the West looking at India differently?
See, these are diplomatic behind the scenes maneuvers. Whether it's a human rights issue, when the US wants to raise a human rights issue, they will link it to Kashmir whenever they want, as and when they want. They do it with Pakistan, they do it with India. So do we.
Right.
I mean, we also do that. These are all diplomatic, this thing. But the point is that in this Vijay Mallya's case, the interesting thing is that for some strange reason, although extradition has been done, for some strange reason, UK government has said we need to put it on hold for some reason which we can't get into. So that's one. So I don't know whether there's a quid pro quo, whether Michel would, as is being speculated in some London press, that there could be a quid pro quo point of thing. I don't know if that's happening. Also, the issue of Michel is basically an issue for the UK government to take up. For the past year and a half, 2 years, if it's an issue, they don't seem to have taken up this issue very seriously. I did read in the media that one of his sons has written to the British Prime Minister.
Yes.
I've also read about the United Nations working group taking this up. What it would mean is build a little pressure, as about all. But as the external affairs spokesman here, he was quoted as saying that, look, we can't be pressurized by these kind of things. Governments are sovereign, and so these things will go on. So I don't really know how much the impact it would have on Michel's release. The truth is that for about a year and a half, he's in Tihar jail. He's not been, he's not even got paid. Whereas everyone else, including Michel, all the Finland Mechanica fellows, including Tyagi, all of them are on bail. And he's the only chap who's just rotting here in Tihar jail.
Exactly. I mean, that is something that I found interesting.
Yeah.
So, my question to you is, okay, Christian Michel is in jail. And very rightly, as you pointed out, all the others from Tyagi to the Italians are at large. So, what in your view, what next? I mean, what can, we've not received any sensational revelations from Christian Michel. I mean, so what do you see? I know this is difficult, but what do you see happening next on this? Is he just going to remain in jail and the whole matter will be forgotten, or do you?
I think that at some point they probably go to Supreme Court and then say, look, he was at one of the court hearings I was reading about. They said, look, we can't give him bail because he has no place to go. That seems strange because if he has no place to go, that means he has no friends here, which is clearly, which sort of proves the point that he didn't have any contacts here in India.
Yes.
So I don't know. I mean, this court thing can go on, can drag on. You know how courts are, but I don't know whether he has the money for it, whether he can afford lawyers. That's another problem. Now, if you have the money, you can sort of get good lawyers who can fight this case. I don't think they have the kind of financial support that is required for fighting a case like this. Very sad, though.
I just wanted to know, what would India and under this government especially be looking for from Christian Michel? Because he's obviously a man that has been connected with India's top brass for a very long time, from the 80s onwards. So what exactly from our point of view would and should we, find out from him during the trial or otherwise?
So the point is, what government of India would be looking at is political contacts. Has he been in touch with the Gandhi family? Nothing seems to have suggested that he has been, except as I told you, there's a piece of paper which Ashke says that he has written. He has denied that I've done it. It's just a piece of paper. What is the evidential value? There was a piece of paper which is called the Surendra Jain Diary years ago, which is a diary actually. Implicated a lot of politicians, and nothing came of it because the court held that these diaries has no relevance, has no evidential value. It is just a piece of paper. So you have to prove, ultimately, Ashwin, you have to prove everything in a court of law. Media cannot be the judge of everything. And that's unfortunately that's what's happening here. And one has to just wait and see where where the investigation takes us. Let's see. I'm not very
But,
hopeful that we should get a kind of trial which will get him released quickly. Just the unfortunate and sad.
but I'll just ask you personally, as someone, who has known Michelle and someone who has covered this throughout, what would you personally like the trial to come? What would you like to know? I mean, from Michelle's point of view and from India's point of
Yeah,
view.
from India's point of view, we need to know whether he was actually in touch with his politicians. What happened? If so, if some money has been, that's basically what the ED and the CBI is after. That look, if there's money, whom have you given it to him? Is there a payoff? Why were you given so much amount of money? What was it being used for? That's it. I don't know. The answers have come because the point is, once he gives a testimony, that again is verified. You look for independent witnesses, and then put it all together and create a sort of a case. That's what it
Yes.
will take some time. It's not going to be instantaneous, Unless you have, see, if somebody says something, it's just not enough. You need to have other independent corroborators, putting it all together. That is not, we're not reached that stage so far. Although it's been about a year, I think a year's investigation in India. I think it's come out.
Let's leave Michelle aside. I was especially interested by your conclusion, where you said, how is it that these middlemen, not just Michelle, but Hashke and otherwise, they were able to operate at large, with such seemingly such great freedom? So, have we, and the question of how defense deals are conducted needs to be looked at more carefully. So, have we made any headway on that front? Is the role of middlemen still a concern for you even now?
You see, compare it from 1984 onwards, 87, when the Bofors thing broke. There were no systems in place. It's thanks to Bofors that there were proper systems in place. Uh, the rules, defense procurement procedures, all that, they've all been in place, And even in this, when the AugustaWestland thing broke in 2010, every procedure was in place. And if you see the file movements, which a lot of media is talking about, how everything went properly to the various heads, there's no problem. Everything moved slowly as it should. So procedures are all in place. The problem is, and then now even Rafale, after that you had the Rafale, which is a government to government. The question, even in this Rafale, there were allegations about private businessmen involved. You see, you can have the best of procedures. Ultimately, it's the individual, right? You had some honest fellow like Anthony.
Yes.
Under his watch, this thing broke out. So, rules, I think, are meant to be broken. And also, I think the individual matters ultimately. If you have an honest defense minister, honest prime minister, things would, it's very difficult. I'm not saying it will be eradicated, but things will be extremely difficult for middlemen to find their way, and make a deal. But government to government deals, government to government is the other approach, going from government to government. India, US, India, France. There again, you find some businessmen worming his way in,
Mm-hmm.
So beyond a point, you can't stop it, no matter what
Yes.
the government does. Yeah, that's the unfortunate.
No, I agree. That is beyond a point. There will always be middlemen, and there will always be roles that.
What it was, and now there's been quite a change. It's been extremely difficult for middlemen to operate. Let me put it this way: it is difficult for middlemen.
But I am interested by the point that you made that, a lot of it, at least in India, we have to rely on the personal honesty of the minister, whoever he or she is.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, I would just like to ask you finally, what are the lessons that AugustaWestland should treat us? Can there be more scrutiny by the media or maybe by other bodies to ensure that defense deals are as, because there is also the issue of safety. I mean, AugustaWestland, let us not forget, it was an issue of safety as well. So can there be greater scrutiny, and how would you suggest we do that?
I think the only way is public. One is the media. Media is very aggressive and all that. They should be continuing to doing what they should do, what they're doing as well. But the final thing is, if you're transparent, no, if you had, let us say, some company official, AugustaWestland, or any other company wants to meet the minister, it should be public. It should be public. There should be no subterfuge. So and so's come and met me. Everything should be on the net, the prices and all that. But the counter to that is the the enemy would come to know, Pakistan would come to know something about what we're getting. But you can get rid of that. But at least make these price negotiations totally public. It's happening. If you go to any e-portal, everything is by and large public. I think that's the only way I see that this can stop.
Are you talking about like the system the United States has, where they release their press conference data, and a lot of data, in fact, on what they've done. So, what other methods from other nations can India adopt, whether it's the United States or elsewhere, especially as far as defense is concerned?
Yeah, they can be very open about it. Say, look, this is X, Y, Z. These are 3 companies. This is what they're quoting. This is the price they've quoted. They're going to have tests. They're going through it. Let the media be part of it. Let them see for themselves. I think greater transparency is the answer. Instead of they're saying, "Oh, this is a security issue. We can't tell you anything." But I think ultimately, if you make everything public, less chances of anybody manipulating it. That's what I think.
So, Raju Santhanam, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your valuable insights. I urge everyone to read The Untold Story of Christian Michel and AugustaWestland.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating story about a man and even his father, how they got involved in the Indian defense system. And it's a great lesson in history as well. I think we forget that. And as to how governments operated from the 1980s onward. So, Raju, thank you once again. It's been a great pleasure talking to you. And I'm Ashwin Ahmad here. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
Thanks.